Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel today. Um, it is late August, and it's a little bit of chilly night today. So that's why I got a jacket. And today I'm going to be talking about something I came across in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and it has to do with something Paul said. And he talks about, and apparently he talks about something like a thorn of some type in his side or something. And so I'm going to talk about this to kind of discuss it. Um, for, so, verse 6. For though I might desire to boast, I will not be a fool, for I will speak the truth, but I refrain lest anyone should think of me above what he sees me to be, or hears from me, unless I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, or in some translations, torment, lest I be exalted above measure. Um, so Paul's really talking about. So he's talking about that he feels like boasting is not really profitable. There's no point in boasting, and and um, and apparently he's saying he received a thorn in his flesh from like which he called a messenger of Satan, um, and this was and apparently according to him this seemed this seemed to be something to keep him humble and to keep him from being prideful in a way. And because the thing about Paul is he was receiving all of these revelations and stuff like that. He was not one of the original 12 with Jesus, but he did later. But he did eventually see Jesus in a vision. Jesus came to him in a vision, and so and he received other. He's saying he's receiving all these other revelations and things like that, and so and really he's recognizing that this thorn is to keep him from becoming puffed up and prideful, and it's really toward in a way to keep him low, and despite everything that is happening with him, it's there to keep him in check, I guess. It was sort of sent to him. Um, and then it continues. It says, concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. So, one thing thought was interesting is that it did say it was a thorn in his flesh, which makes me think that he could have been suffering from maybe it had to do with some mental infirmity, physical infirmity, or like an illness or some other thing, or it could have been just like a temptation of some type that he was dealing with. Um, it doesn't really say. Um, there could even have been external. There are a lot of things I can think of that could indicate this could apply to external. I don't know if that's specifically what Paul's referring to, but I can see where external could also be apply that. Which so interesting. Yeah. So he mentioned a thorn in his flesh, which means like you think of more temptation and things like that. But and then he asked for God to take it away. It's like, I don't, God, I don't want this. I can't please take this away. And he's like, no, my grace is sufficient for you. So it's all about, so, I mean, despite our imperfections, it's about God's grace in the end. And God gives us grace and for whatever we deal with. And that's really the main message here. um, so I mentioned there are some few things that are I could see examples of this and being external as well as internal. Um, so it's kind of interesting that some things in life that you seem to be doing really well with, but sometimes right along with that you have an immediate trade-off sometimes, and there are other things because certain things are doing well here, other things are not going to go so great. And I remember with when when I was working in Memphis and stuff like that, I remember a few like very often there were cases where I got a, I would have a new job and I'd be getting another raise or just a bump up in my pay because of moving to this new job. And and interestingly enough, out of the blue, right out not long after doing that, then I would start suddenly seeing all these sudden expenses and things start needing repair. A car needs getting fixed, something in the house needs fixed, some other bill, some other raising utilities or something, or some other expense somewhere. It was just so interesting that it's like all these things just come right after I get that raise, and it's just sort of very interesting. So it's kind of like no, let's see it. This is like that. Um, I know. So there's other things like so you find like it's like I've been one point I found came to Crossway and I found this great amazing church that I love and there's you find a great Bible study teacher and you start learning a bunch of things and God starts showing you a bunch of incredible things and and all that's great and then well that right there with that you find out you're a bunch of people are going to start rejecting you and not liking you um, and then few people in the Bible study may not necessarily like you. Certain people may not certainly like you. You might get viewed as a teacher's pet or something like that. And then got to the point where you get married and stuff like that. And then you got your church place at church is great. You got married and everything's good. Everything's lining up. Everything's wonderful. Um, well, then now you're going to be dealing with this job over here that you don't enjoy, and then everything is going to be kind of feeling like it's going a bit bad, and you're not going to be sure whether what you're going to be start wondering if your career is completely over because of this job feels like a complete dead end and stuff like that. So you're going to be dealing with that. And then, okay, so now did find a new job. You found something that kind of fits where your career path is, and so you're going out to and so you're going to move out to Nashville, and you're going to say goodbye to all your friends at the church you loved, and um, you're all going to still stay friends, but you're going to move on out to Nashville, and so that's all great. Well, for one, you're not going to be part of that church, and then also you're going to have to deal with all these other issues at churches here and there, and they're not. And some of them are going to be kind of oddly and strangely, mysteriously rejecting you at an institutional level. Like, for example, not giving you like for example, not allowing you to join their Bible classes and stuff like that, and they're just going to be somewhat negligent to those type of things, or say they just shut down altogether because of some illness going around everywhere in the world, and so things like that. So then say now you move to I know you now move to Murfreesboro, and then things feel a little bit better financially, good with certain things, not necessarily a job, but just other things happening. And so, well, there with that, you're also going now you're gonna face kind of this maybe some general depression, and then also just I feel like your job's going to be in massive trouble, and you're going to have all these unexplained disasters happen, and you're going to start wondering what's going to be happening. And so, and thankfully I had people to pray through that. Um, so anyway, it is kind of interesting. It's like I've had a lot of things, and so like there's always been these trade-offs. It's just like okay, whenever you think everything's going to be really good, you're going to find out okay, maybe there's this new thing over here that you're going to have to deal with, and that seems to be that maybe that's part of what God by God's design. It's just to really keep you in humility and also to depend on Him. And I guess also internal examples, various temptations and for like so you have for me, of course, I deal with autism my entire life, so there's a lot of intellectual giftings with that, and but there's also social limitations with that I have to deal with, and of course, never knew much about this before, but there's also sensory issues to consider. I feel like I've dealt with more sensory issues in recent times since I'm living with other people, and I was able to regulate myself a little better when I was by myself, but that's a little more difficult now with living with others. And so, and deal with other things, being hyper focused on interests and stuff like that. So, I guess really but even with all that, God shows grace through whatever you're dealing with. I was never, I always had issues with certain friendships, but somehow I ended up with people I could go to for whatever. And God somehow brought those various people into my life for one at one points in time or another. So thankfully, I was never going completely without. Um, so I think with that, I mean, just the answer, the really thing to take away from this is to really just realize that whatever God's doing in your life, He does them for reasons you may never understand, and but one of them is to keep you from being boastful and thinking like your life is going to feel like your life is perfect and never will be perfect. God, that's something He does. So there were a lot of people I've dealt with. There's a lot of times where it's just like I felt like back in the period of time where God was really showing me a whole bunch of things, and I was talking about it a lot on Facebook and stuff. And sometimes you get people who ridicule you and stuff like that, and Satan has a way of coming in and making sure you try to find ways to discourage you, and you will feel like you might feel kind of stupid, or you might feel kind of like weird for doing those things, but God, um, don't worry about that. You'll just just know and trust. I mean, trust the Lord. God is using those things, whether you realize it or not. Maybe it seems crazy what you're talking about sometimes, but don't worry. God's using it So you just need to find a way, find your way inside the secure insecurities and walk in, and just find a way to walk in those insecurities and continue on with what God has told you. That's something, I think that's something you'll, if that's something you're dealing with, just know that's something you might have to do. And I know that's something I've dealt with before, but somehow it came out the other end. And right now, I guess I'm dealing with insecurities with just feeling like I belong anywhere. So especially at church. So not in very in proximity with all the people I once knew back in Memphis, and so it's a very different situation now. There's a lot of things that go on in my current church, and I feel literally on the outside. I feel like I'm not worth anything very often. Um, but I guess, in many ways I've been angry about certain things, or upset, but I've just tried to kind of just find a way to ignore all that and just stay focused on whatever God is going to do in this or that circumstance, or just even with this, me focus on finding out what God wants to do here, rather than with this video, like videos like this, or whatever else it is, just keeping my eye on whatever that is, and kind of like what I was talking about before, the mind of Christ and stuff like that, just staying focused on whatever it is God wants to do, and not being distracted by um, all these other things that are just going to make you feel down or discouraged, and just ignore it, I guess. Well, don't ignore it, but don't not it. I mean, just stay focused. Um, but yeah, that's all I got. I think that's all I have. Um, thank you all for watching, and you have a blessed day. Later.